What is going on, everybody? It's your boy John, and welcome back to Gearbox. So today we are talking about mistakes people make while modifying their cars. Now, I have fallen victim to this. I'm sure some of the people watching this video have fallen victim to some of these things as well. But really, these mistakes are not like, oh, you don't have the right tools, or, do this instead of this. It's more so thinking through the process of modifying your car and just some things you should probably do in a procedure rather than just throwing shit at your car and hoping it sticks. I know it's very, very tempting to do some of these things just for instant gratification, but I promise you, if you follow the procedures we're going to be talking about, it might just make your life one hell of a lot easier. So without further ado, we are going to get into numero uno. Mistake number one on this list is going to be a pretty popular one, and this is also one that I have fallen victim to with the WRX, and that is buying wheels before you actually lower your car. Now, this topic for me is not the biggest deal ever because I'm not like a huge stancy boy guy. I prefer more of a kind of OEM plus track setup-y look. Obviously I want it to be low and I want the fitment to be decent, but I'm not looking for any fender to lip or anything like that. But regardless, when you lower a car, a lot of other things change other than just ride height. Okay, and I guess that's one of the biggest things that probably most people don't necessarily understand is that you're changing the geometry of all of the suspension in your car. And, if you've already bought a certain set of wheels, it's not going to make that big of a difference necessarily, but because that geometry is changing, you need to be able to see and really calculate, all right, this car is lowered or this truck is lifted. Now, what sort of wheel and tire setup should I run to get the best fitment for me? Once again, this is a popular one. I'm not reinventing the wheel with this, but it is very important to do. Otherwise, you might be, I guess, left with a little bit to desire as far as your wheel fitment goes. On to number two in this list, and I think this one might be one of the most important things to keep in mind, just in general, really. But once again, as I said to start this video off, I know when we get a new car and a new platform, we're just ready to hit the ground running. We want to start making moves. We want to start buying shit because it's in our DNA as car people. Now, number two on this list is please do not modify your car to the point that it takes away enjoyment. Now, what do I mean by that? I have a list of a couple things, and I'm gonna pull them up right now. So the list of things that would make your car unenjoyable: too low, too stiff, it's unreliable, and the exhaust is too loud. Now, is that all the things that you could potentially do to make it unenjoyable? No, but those are going to be the most popular ones as far as I'm concerned. This is a big one, guys, especially a car like this. Like, I'm struggling really hard, and I have a couple mods that we haven't installed yet, have a couple ideas on the way, but this car is so good stock that I think the threshold of messing it up and making it unenjoyable is a lot lower than like my WRX was. So I'm trying to be really careful there, but ultimately it's the same thing for every car. Lower it, go on a good set of coilovers and don't go on shitty lowering springs with horrible spring rate. Go with the high dollar or, high quality exhaust system that has the, R&D behind it to make a good pitch rather than just straight piping your 370Z and sounding like a trumpet driving down the road. There's a lot of examples we can all do regarding this, I guess, piece of entry on the list. But this is a big one because ultimately you're then just throwing away let's call it a $30,000 investment because you no longer like to drive it. So anyway, definitely something to consider. That's number two. on to number 3. Number 3 on this list is going to be a big one, and this is not the first time I've talked about this, but we're talking about supporting mods. So, for example, if you're running a high horsepower, or let's call it a high boosted car, make sure you run cooling to the engine so your shit doesn't blow up. If you're running lap times and you want to be a race car and go to the track and do what you need to do, but you're not investing in brake, good solid brake calipers and brake rotors or brake cooling or whatever, that's something you need to do. If you have a turbocharged vehicle and everyone knows what blow-by is, or if you don't, go look it up, but if you're gonna be running this thing hard and you don't have an oil catch can, that's a problem. These are all things that, are they the most glamorous and flashy support or modifications in general that we can be doing and spending our money on? No. And that's why people skip out on them, because they don't have that instant gratification, or at least the vast majority of us do not. When I install a catch can, I'm not like, boy, I am so excited that now I've got a catch can installed. No, because it's not aero, because it's not wheels, because it's not exhaust. It doesn't do anything as far as our senses are concerned, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's gonna create a hell of a longer longevity on your car, but no one's gonna know it's there, and I guess that's the problem. But supporting mods are literally huge, and we have to do them if you're going to be doing upgrades and upgrades that require supporting mods. That is a huge mistake if you were to push a shit ton of horsepower and forego all of the supporting mods to make sure that that horsepower is reliable. That's a problem. So please don't do that. Do your research. I'm not exactly the best person to talk to about it, just because I haven't had any builds that really required that type of stuff. But it is something to keep in mind nonetheless. So that's number 3. We'll get on to number 4. Number 4 on this list is gonna be pretty simple, and that is giving a shit what people think. If you constantly give a shit what people think about your spoiler on the back of your car, or the wide body kit you have on this, or the fact that you're running rep wheels on your Miata, or your fake Ganadors on insert car here, or whatever, stop. Because this is your car, this is your masterpiece, and literally no one else's opinion matters except for yours. And that's something that early on in me modding my Subaru and now my Supra, I always have to remind myself, because I get, opinions from a lot of, both people I know and people I don't know who I just meet, like, oh, I wouldn't have done this, I would have done that. And I'm like, shit, maybe he's right. And then very quickly, I'm like, nah, f that. Like, this is my car. I made the investment. I made the investment not only on the car, but on the pieces and parts as well. So everyone else's opinions can f off. But seriously, that is something that you need to keep in mind. This is for your enjoyment, for yourself, not for the enjoyment of other people necessarily. Now, that's not to say that some people can't find enjoyment out of your car or your modifications, but you just can't let that get to you. And that's really the biggest thing here, guys, is people are gonna have opinions, and most people's opinions are going to be negative to what your perspective is. And that's okay, just don't let it get to you. Keep grinding, keep moving forward, and all of this will be good. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for another episode of Gearbox. If you have any other mistakes that maybe I've missed on today's list, drop them in the comment section down below. As always, if you did like this video, please feel free to give this video a big fat thumbs up. And as always, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell to get notified every single time we upload a video here on Gearbox. And that's gonna have to do it for today's video. Adios, peace, and I'll see you next time.
是留在自己那张脏乱的床，手摆好姿态对我。